Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Mid Atlantic Championship Wrestling Review Series for the 11th of September, 1982. We continue the foray into the series. I'm up through the end of October. May get to that tonight, depending on what my schedule looks like. But anyway, Jimmy Valiant is out, and he is happy that others have bought him a new boombox, but he's also very upset that his boombox was busted open. He basically promises that the House of Humperdinck will pay for breaking the boombox of Jimmy Valiant. Kind of that run in. They've cut his hair, they've busted up his boombox, and Jimmy Valiant is not a happy fellow. He is kind of, you know, I would even say borderline insane sometimes when that comes forward. He runs in and does a enhancement match with Valiant getting jumped by Humperdinck's army, as we see. Um, you know, Leroy Brown and others jump him out, including Koloff and the like. But Ernesto is here. He gets a quick victory over him. And then we move to the second in the series of matches on the show, which happens to be Ledoux and Leroy Brown versus Rotundo and Kiniski. Kiniski coming back as a babyface. We haven't necessarily seen him in that role too much. Kiniski never really caught on anywhere. I guess you'd say World Class would be the biggest place he kind of caught on. Late 85, 86, 87, something like that. But certainly a more underhanded guy or underneath guy. Anyway, Kiniski tries to get in there, tries to tag into Rotundo. Rotundo, on the other hand, is coming into his own, always looking competitive in matches, even with guys bigger than himself, like Ledoux and Brown here, but also guys like Greg Valentine in previous weeks. And so Rotundo, top wrist lock, basic stuff, not exactly going to be a power guy, but managing to hold his own with guys that are double and triple his size. Kiniski comes in and winds himself up on the receiving end of a bear hug from bad Leroy Brown, and that doesn't exactly go the way he wants it to go either. Brown kind of taking his shots at getting things going in a direction that's going to serve him well there. Cut off attempted by Brown. Brown manages to get a couple of shots off on Rotundo, and not exactly the type that anybody wants to really see. But anyhow, Rotundo comes back after an arm wringer and gets pulled down by the hair. Ledoux comes back in and takes over on Kiniski, more of a brawling style. Not that Leroy Brown was a technician, but there's more brawling there. And then we do see the heels kind of take over and get a victory using the size and brawn that they both possess. Kiniski, I believe, the one taking the fall. Then we go to an upcoming Ben Alexander and Jim Dalton combination. They kind of talk about not being given fair shots in the area in the way that they want to anyway. And so that kind of is the undertone of that promo. Briscoe and McDaniel coming up against Valentine and Jones here. And that kind of doesn't exactly go the way that they want it to go there. Again, Briscoe and McDaniel kind of, both doing the Native American thing. I think this would have been better served to start here. Valentine with another in the robes, and Valentine and McDaniel have a history going back to, I believe it was 79 when Valentine broke in. Valentine, or actually Wahoo, and he have the history trying to break the leg, and that's the Mid-Atlantic area. So Wahoo and Valentine automatically going to pop a house a little bit. Briscoe coming back too, and Valentine hooking up, trying to get some hammerlocks, trying to get some basic stuff going around. Wahoo and Valentine staying in there. Valentine taking the majority of the match for his team. Some punches, some kicks, stays on him, and Jones, your Mid-Atlantic champion, also having just defeated Briscoe within the last couple of months, kind of keeping that feud hot too. Staying on the hammerlocks, sending Jones into the buckle with the hammerlock and trying to get everything he can out of every inch of maneuver, as it were. Jack Briscoe. Briscoe continuing to be pretty persistent, even a modified STF in there. Although I don't know that the STF name is fully used, but Briscoe manages to cut the ring off and crank on the leg for several minutes of Jones. Jones, of course, your Mid-Atlantic champion, and Briscoe certainly wanting to weaken him and get that back. Valentine gets a chop block in and eventually gets a figure four or attempted figure four in on Briscoe. And Briscoe reaches up, gets the small package, and Valentine almost takes the fall there. Match worth going out of your way to see for a television match style. Certainly much more competitive and realistic than a lot of what you see today, just in terms of the way things go around. The figure four is continued, and eventually Briscoe goes after Sir Oliver Humperdinck. Humperdinck comes into the ring, much to the delight of the fans. Everybody breaks down. I think the referee has lost all control of the match. Humperdinck coming into the ring, though, a pretty big deal. And then we see Rick Steamboat saying he wants to kind of refocus on tag team wrestling, as it were, kind of going forward there. And Wahoo also talking, Jack Briscoe talking about how he wants the Mid-Atlantic Championship back from Paul Jones. There is a more hype for the returning Abdullah the Butcher that, honestly, unless you're really an Abdullah fan, I don't imagine many people care about. Steamboat, though, coming back here, kind of back and forth between tag team matches and singles matches. Steamboat here in a singles affair, I do believe, with one of the new mask guys. Again, Steamboat, always good for a run in the area. Steamboat against the Gladiator here is, kind of what picks up the slack, so to speak. No pun intended there. But anyway, as we begin to go forward in that manner, we kind of get Steamboat, getting shoved back into the corner by the Gladiator. Not exactly a super aggressive series of stuff, but anyway, Steamboat and the Gladiator go at it. Gladiator trying to get a couple of cheap shots in on Steamboat. Steamboat goes into arm bars, headlocks, and takeovers, and Steamboat, again, obviously out wrestling the guy. Not a big surprise there to anybody with even a quarter of a brain about wrestling by any stretch of the imagination, but continues by Steamboat to be a competitive match nonetheless. Gladiator does get a couple of shots in, then they go back to the arm work by Steamboat. Steamboat manages to come in with staying on and eventually pulls the mask off the Gladiator, revealing him to be Ken Timms, but not before hitting a couple of chops and other basic maneuvers, and Steamboat grabbing the win. Then we move to the final in the series of the day, which happens to be Keith Larson kind of talking about being in there with Gene Anderson. Larson talking about wanting to find a tag team partner. We see King Parsons out there with him, kind of tying that up, and then we see Larson going in there for what is not a fun match with Gene Anderson. Anderson, I think, retires within the next year or two here. Larson, though, kind of being positioned as a babyface who's trying from underneath. Front face locks, punches, kicks by Anderson. Anderson tries to break things down in a pretty basic maneuver and manages to get a couple kicks in. And obviously, Anderson getting the victory for Team Humperdinck. Valentine promises to get rid of Wahoo, promises to maintain decorum for his team, and basically Paul Jones cuts a promo saying that he is making fun of, for lack of a better term, the idea that anyone can stop him, including but not limited to the former Mid-Atlantic champion in Jack Briscoe. So we'll close with that. We'll be back with more right after this.